Shalom. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ha, Racha, Kodash, Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS and their elders. Double honors to my elder, Aharawan, Ban Yasharala of the Lions Den Camp, located here in Jacksonville, Florida. Also, salutations to the sincere Akim, pushing the truth around the four corners of this earth. I'm Nakar Harab Ban Yasharala, coming out of the Lions Den Camp of Yasharala. Now today I'll be coming out with a little lesson. It's somewhat of a lamb back off the brother Zariah, this camp lesson in which he just did a few minutes ago, and it's about being apt to teach, in which he showed to Zariak, or BKA, or better known as Captain Crunch, as he's been dubbed and or labeled or named, how rather than correcting and being more apt to teach Jake, to show Jake like no, that's actually wrong, but this is actually right. Instead, he mocked Jake, and you know the brother Zaria also brought up, you're not supposed to boast against the branches. You're not supposed to boast and get the swole armpit syndrome, and or get the puffed up chest because someone may not know something, especially if they're of Israel, so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American. So through the power and the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, I'm gonna just bring out these scriptures, starting with 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. It says, "Study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, but shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness." So us as men of the Lord, or if as the Heavenly Father has called us, we're to study. We're to make sure that we know what we're talking about. We're to make sure that we are affirmed and confirmed in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. That workman that's not going to be ashamed, so that we can rightly divide the word of truth unto our people, so that we can actually tell them what is correct and what is incorrect. Give them the knowledge and the wisdom and understanding on their level that they can understand, to further draw them into Yahweh Yahweh Shai. But what Tazariak did was he mocked them, and you could cause somebody to pull away for what's right. Continuing, it says, but you're supposed to shun profane and vain babblings. You're supposed to shun that stuff. Anything that's opposite of the scriptures, they're trying to add in, you're supposed to shun it and be like, because why? Because it just only going to increase into more ungodliness. So we are to rightly divide the word of truth, meaning teach people according to their level of understanding, so that they can gain a higher level of understanding. But let's continue, because you have a lot of our people, though we are to rightly divide the word of truth, they still won't listen. So guess what? This is Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 5. It says, "And they, whether they will hear, or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house, yet shall know that a prophet has been among them." So whether our people hear this truth or not, we ought to tell them. We understand and we know that Jake is hard-headed, disrespectful, and disobedient. But whether they want to hear this truth or not, we are to tell them, period. We are to give them the truth, whether they like it, whether they love it, whether they agree, or whether they disagree. And this is what we're supposed to do. Going back to the brother Zaria, being apt to teach, meaning willing to teach, ready to teach, ready to show somebody the right way. Now, if they choose to go opposite of the right way, well, you've done your job. But you're not supposed to boast against people when they don't understand, when they don't know. As the brother pointed out in the video, as the brother Zaria pointed out in the video, that the Jake said Genesis rather than Deuteronomy. That's just a slip of the tongue. It wasn't a slip of the tongue and purposeful. It was just a slip of the tongue. Everybody that is human, that is a man on this earth, that is a woman on this earth, that is spirits in these fleshly bodies, we have slipped on numerous occasions. But it wasn't, on purpose, and it wasn't, especially for the men of the Lord, it wasn't against the spirit. We may have just mispronounced the word or said it wrong. But nonetheless, We are to tell our people. We are to rightly divide the word of truth unto them. Let's continue. Now, as far as this Tazariak dude, you know, the reason why he did what he did. Hold on, let me see something before I go to my next point. I'm going to read verse 7 again. So, like, I'm going to read verse 7 of Ezekiel chapter 2, just to reiterate the point. It says, and thou shalt speak my words unto them, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are most rebellious. So we're supposed to speak, period. We're supposed to teach, period. We're not supposed to mock our people. You know, every now and then, you know, we're teaching. Jake get on your nerve because you're just so hard-headed and disrespectful to you. Yeah, you slide on him a couple of times. You rank on him. But when Jake coming sincere and he trying to figure out or he just don't know what he trying to know, you ought to rightly teach him and not to mock, as Tazariak did. But this is the reason why Tazariak did that, you know, and why many of those House of Saul camps don't really do the people any good. This is why. This is Romans chapter 7, Shalakia, chapter 8, verse 4. It says, for they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the spirit, the thing of the spirit. So when you're after the flesh, guess what you're going to do? If someone comes up not knowing or make a mistake or slip of the tongue, may misquote a verse and or, you know, a book, because those that are of the flesh, guess what they're going to do? They're going to mock that person. Why? Because that's what a fleshly man would do. So they're going to mind the things of the flesh. Oh, wait a minute. The Lord didn't misquote scriptures. You don't know, you know, in this, at least in this incarnation, in this existence, because there is no remembrance in death. You know, you don't know if Yahushua slipped, or one of his 12 disciples slipped and made a mistake, but it wasn't according to the Spirit. It was just an honest mistake. You know, though a man may slip in the tongue, but not in the spirit. You know, but those that are after the flesh, they boast against the branches. And that's things that are things that are of the flesh. But it says, but they that are after the spirit, the things of the spirit. Now, if that Tazariak guy would have been a truly spiritual man, you know, going after the spirit of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, he would have politely just let that brother know, as the brother Zariah stated in this video, that's not, you said Genesis is actually Deuteronomy. You know, and that Jake Potter would be like, oh, okay. You know, and he would have learned. But when you're not spiritual, you can't accurately diagnose the sickness and or the illness of our people. You know, let's continue. Let's go to verse 6. It says, for to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. So when you have a carnal mind, that's spiritual death, and eventually it leads unto physical death. But if you're spiritually minded, that's life and peace, because you're walking in Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. Verse 7. It says, because the carnal mind is enmity against Yahweh, for it is not subject to the law of Yahweh, neither indeed can be. The Lord tells us in the scriptures not to boast against the branches, not to become prideful. But see, a carnal mind is enmity towards the Most High. A carnal mind is opposite, it's separate of the Heavenly Father. And it is not subject to the law, and neither can it be subject to the law. It cannot be subject unto righteousness. So Tazariak, in that frame, he's a very carnal man. He's not spiritual. It does not matter. He's not spiritual. And that was a perfect example that the brother Zariah of this camp plainly pointed out. He's not spiritual. These other House of Saul camps, these guys are not spiritual. They're carnally minded. So guess what? They have a separation from Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. And they cannot be subject unto Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. Verse 8. So then, they that are in the flesh cannot please the Most High, please Yahweh. So those that operate in the flesh, they can't please the Lord. They can't rightly divide the word of truth. They're not going to be apt to teach. They're not going to be able to show the people what's right. They're not going to be able to correct one according to the scriptures if they make a mistake. They're going to respond very fleshly. They're going to mock. They're going to boast. They're going to say retarded things. Hold on, I got one more, then I'm going to end it. There we go. This is First Peter chapter 5, starting at verse 2. It says, "Feed the flock of Yahweh which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Neither as being lords over Yahweh's heritage, but being examples to the flock." So you are to feed the flock of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. You got to take the oversight. I mean, you got to take it to your mind. But see, this Tazariah guy, he did not do that. He didn't take it to mind. He didn't think about it. But you're supposed to take the oversight, not by constraint, but do it willingly. But willingly doing the work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai in truth and sincerity and humbleness and liking to do it. Not for filthy lucre. You know, of course, those House of Saul churches or camps, they're all about money. You know, but you're supposed to do this work of a ready mind. You're supposed to be ready to speak the truth when opportunity arises itself. When the Lord put it there, you're supposed to be ready to speak the truth. And when you do, if somebody make a mistake, you're not supposed to talk to them like you're the Lord, like you're Yahushua and you're over the flock, like you're over the Most High's heritage. But rather being the example, show somebody of what to do, how to do, according to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So yeah, it was just a little quick lesson. Yeah, but I'm gonna end it right there. And with that, Shalom.